We are here today to do setting and achieving a big goal. I'll put that CE credit screen slide back up at the end for those of you that want the CE credit. It's no pressure, it's elective. So if you want it, great. If you don't, no biggie. I try I'm just taking all of the classes that I already teach anyway and get them CE approved, because if you're going to show up, you might as well get credit, is how I feel about it. Hopefully that helps. So there, I can see all of you guys, which is good. And we will get going. Okay, setting and achieving a big goal. Here we go. This is our agenda for the day. We're going to talk about the sharpening your axe metaphor and some real estate tools we have to do that. And then we're going to talk about like a system that can help you like achieve your goals basically, and what that looks like, and how you take your goal and break it down into tactics, and then lay out the tactics over a period of time, and then execute. And then, of course, because you're hanging out with me, we're going to talk about how we spend our time because I'm a broken record, but it's really, really important. So, we have one more that's trying to log in. Hold on one second. For some reason, I don't understand Zoom. Sometimes it works perfectly for everyone and sometimes it doesn't. So let's see. Okay, here we go.
Hey, Zareen.
Yes.
Hey, Brooke and Terry and Adam, we're all kind of in the same room together.
Okay, perfect. I love it.
We're trying to be accountability partners for everybody.
I love it. That makes me so happy. You guys, I love it. It's good. I can see you too, so that's great. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to tell you guys a story. So, and you have heard this story before, but it's worth repeating. So this is the tale of two lumberjacks. And in the depths of a dark forest, there once lived two strong lumberjacks. And they both lived in little cabins not very far apart from each other. And they both loved to harvest trees more than anything in the world. So every morning around 4 a.m., the first lumberjack would get up and get ready and go into the woods. He sharpened his axe first thing and then started out his day because there was no time to waste. The second lumberjack would wake up at 7 a.m. and have a big breakfast and eat his bread and honey. And he ate it slowly and relished it and listened to the sounds of nature and was just a little bit more mellow. And so the first lumberjack worked nonstop all day long. He loved the sound of his axe against the wood. He loved being productive. He loved seeing his pile grow. He loved feeling the sweat. His hands would drip blood at the end of the day because he was working so hard nonstop. And he would, call it a day and go home and rest. And he chopped 10 trees every day, which is a really good number. And it made him feel like really proud. The second lumberjack worked really hard too. He stopped every once in a while to take some breaks. He would sit down and listen to the birds and cut some flowers and rest his arms and have a snack. And but he would work too. He would leave. He would go home a little bit early every day without like bloody hands, right? But his stack at the end of the day every day was 15 trees a day, and that made him feel really proud. It's also a really good number. So one night after they both worked all day, the first lumberjack was walking by the house of the second lumberjack, and he was devastated to see that the second lumberjack's pile from that day had 15 trees on it, and his, had only had 10, and he'd been working so hard. So, confused and in despair, he calls out to the second lumberjack friend and asked him, like, how can this be? Like, I can hear you chopping all day. I can hear you stop. I'm working continuously. I don't stop. There's just no way that you chop more wood. So you have to tell me your secret. And the second lumberjack turns to him and says, you are right, friend. Like every hour I do stop and I take a break and I rest and I sharpen my axe. So you've heard this story before. It's nothing like earth shattering or new, but I think it's a good reminder that we need to stop and sharpen our axe sometimes, both like personally and in business, right? Like set things down, make yourself better, whether that's through rest or through improving your tools, right? Abe Lincoln said, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. So how many of you guys have heard that story before? Probably because I told it to you. Okay, well, it's a good one, right? It's a good thing for us to think about. So the question for you to keep track of personally is like, what does sharpening your axe look like to you, right? And this might be different for everyone. Is it I'm better if I'm exercising like regularly. If I exercise in the morning, like my day will be better. I know that. That's a good one for me. Obviously, gratitudes is good. Meditation, your morning routine. Does anyone have one they want to share? This will be way better if you guys talk and it's not just me talking.
Mine is exercise too.
Awesome. I love it. Who was that?
Meredith.
Thank you, Meredith. I love it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, some of it's just spending time with family. I lately have been putting in my headphones at like 9 because I'm exhausted, and like the TV's on, like the kids are coming in and out of our room, and I'm like there like doing my little meditations with my headphones, and that like helps me sleep better. Like, so it's whatever works for you, right? I feel a little bit selfish, but guess what? Like the world is still spinning and they're not missing me for those like 15 minutes. So anyway, that's my version of like mentally sharpening my personal axe. But we can also look at it from the angle of work, right? So what does sharpening your axe for your real estate business look like? And I know we think of sharpening our axe as like taking a break and resting, right? But there's things we can do, you know, for the lumberjack. If we think about our lumberjacks, like for them, chopping equals production, right? Just like for you, like what's the real estate equivalent, right? Writing and negotiating contracts, showing houses, like being with clients, like those things equal production, right? And Ninja, they call that productive time. You know how Ninja has the concept of PIE time, P-I-E. The P is productive time. And that time is what usually involves you, your client, and maybe probably a contract, right? Those are the things that actually turn into production. But the I in PIE time is indirectly productive time. And these are things that they're not necessarily making you money while you do them, but they will turn into things that make you money, right? It's your lead generating activities, it's networking, it's phone calls, it's your notes. This is your indirectly productive time. I would equate these things to like sharpening your axe. So you're not actually like chopping down trees and making wood and doing deals in that time, but it's really, really important to you to do your productive time better, right? And it will create more productive time for you. So that's your indirectly productive time. Any thoughts here? Does anyone think about their business in this way, like productive time and indirectly productive time? From Ninja?
Yeah, but it's the motion of, you know, working on your business versus working in your business, right?
Yes, exactly. That's a perfect example. Ninja says you should work on your business in the morning, and you should work in your business in the afternoon if you can. And that means like wake up, do your morning routine, do all of these, you know, indirectly productive activities that were going to lead to more business for you. Your phone calls, your notes, your real estate reviews, things like that. Tessa says she's starting to. So I'm excited to hear how that works out. So this is just to get you guys thinking about like why we're even talking about like setting a goal, and that a lot of times with the goal, like we focus on the result, but it's really all the like painful maybe, or just focused time we spend on doing things that are going to get us there. It's not sexy because it's not the end, right? It's the work, but we're sharpening our axe to get us to our goal. So Briggs Freeman has a lot of resources too to help you sharpen your axe that we want you guys to be sure to lean into. So I just wanted to throw this up to remind you. It's just important to know like what all things you can lean into to help you grow your business, right? If you get stuck, that's a hard part about achieving a goal, is sometimes you get stuck or it feels too big, or you don't know how to like take the first bite of the elephant or which end to start at. So like lean into any of these resources to help you. Like we have a lot, and you know, I want you to succeed. Your sales managers want you to succeed. Sherry and Catherine do. So let us help you. If you get stuck and you have a goal, like phone a friend, right? We'll help you. Does anyone have any other ideas here or any comments? You're not going to hurt my feelings if you don't, but would love feedback. Okay. So you guys are probably like, we're here to talk about setting and achieving a goal. So how does this really relate? And it really relates because it goes back to taking control of our time, right? I know like we're about to enter spring market and it gets really busy, and you're kind of, you know, just doing deals and focusing on things. And it's really easy to focus on the productive things and let the indirectly productive things kind of lag, but we know that that'll lead to like a hole in our pipeline in the future. So it's really, really easy in our business to like focus on the client because we want to be so focused on customer service, and put the things that we need to do to the side. And also to be so focused on the client that it feels like we're not in control of our own time. But we have to change this mindset if we want to be able to have the time to achieve our goals. And ultimately, when we achieve our goals, we're going to show up better for our clients and our business will be better and they'll have better service. So it's just a mindset shift we have to make, that this indirectly productive time is super important and we have to set aside time for it. So if you guys have thoughts, throw them out here. This is a garbage dump of inspirational time quotes for you guys, but I thought hopefully if you read them, like one of them will resonate with one of you guys somehow, or there's one that will resonate with each of you hopefully. But I love this one. I got it. Someone gave me a notebook once that says a goal is a dream with a deadline, and I like cut off the cover of the notebook when I was done with it and kept it because I love it. It's so true. This one's good. Until you value yourself, you will not value your time, and until you value your time, you won't do anything with it. And then this one I loved because it's important to what we're doing here. The secret of your future is hidden in your daily routine. And then this one is, the bad news is that time flies. The good news is that you're the pilot, right? Like we are in charge, even though it feels like people need us and we have to be responsive. There's a way to do that, like with boundaries. So any questions, thoughts, comments? No? Okay. So once again, we're going to talk about this only because as we're talking about setting and achieving a big goal, most of the steps that we're going to have to do to get there are going to be not urgent, right? But they are important. And so you have to schedule those items. This is the Eisenhower matrix, the urgent importance scale. You guys have heard me talk about it a million times. I'm almost sorry to put it in front of you again, but it's like super relevant to what we're doing here. So I did it. And I updated some of the examples, which I think are a little bit better. But, there's things in our business that are urgent and important. And these are, I would say, like P activities, your productive activities, your listing presentation, showing out of town buyers, submitting an offer, meeting with clients, like those things you have to do like as they come up. And that's just, you have to address them. Those are things that go on your calendar, right? You agree to them when they need to happen. There's things that are urgent but not important, and these are things you should delegate, right? There's a lot of this stuff in our business, and when you're first getting started, if you have the time, like of course you can do all of things. It doesn't make sense to pay someone if you're not busy and your day isn't full. But as you get busier and busier, you need to be focused on productive time or indirectly productive time that can't be delegated. And if there's something that can be delegated, like dropping off pop buys or, certain generic social media posts or, transaction paperwork, meal prep, like carpooling, things like that can be delegated to someone else. They're all time bound and they need to happen on a regular basis, but you don't have to do them. Like someone else can do them for you. So urgent, not important things get delegated. Things that are not urgent and are important. This is our most important quadrant. And this is the bulk of the time that we need to achieve our goals. So you see, like, these are the things that have to be scheduled and placed on your calendar. And we're going to talk about blocking out the time when we go into like our guaranteed goals challenge, because you're going to have tactics to do that don't fit into your normal business routine that you have to have the time for, or else they just get pushed to the next week and then they don't get done. And that's why our goals don't get done. So it is a function of blocking out time to do these. Last year, when we had our meetings on Tuesdays at 2 for the 12-week year that we did, everyone's Tuesday mornings were the most productive because that's when we were trying to get all of our things done, right? We had blocked out that time because we had to report on them Tuesday afternoon. So who knows, maybe Wednesday mornings will end up being the most important morning this go round. But as long as you guys find a time to schedule some time to do your tactics, that's the most important thing. And then the last, of course, if it's not urgent and it's not important, you should check it. Cell phone games, social media, time wasting. I told this story yesterday. I had lunch with a friend not too long ago, and she told me she'll sometimes stay up on TikTok until 3 a.m. And she's like an executive at a big company and has like 2 little kids. And I'm like, you need to delete TikTok because it's ridiculous, but she'll just go down the rabbit hole. So, delete it. If it's not valuable to you, just do yourself the favor. You're not going to miss it. It may feel like you will, but you won't. So any questions about this? Are you guys all prepared to teach this slide at this point, since I've told it to you so many times? Probably so. I just think it's important, and especially with respect to what we're going to talk about doing here, which is focusing on our execution system. So Stephen Covey, who wrote, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, most of us spend too much time on what is urgent and not enough time on what is important, which I think is just, really important for us to know. Okay, so now we're going to talk about guaranteed goals. And this guaranteed goals is basically based off of this book, The 12-Week Year. How many of you guys have read this book? Angela read it, Melissa. Okay, that's awesome. It's a good book. You don't have to read it because we're going to talk about it here, and I'm going to lay it all out for you if you want to do it. But basically, the idea is that you focus on one big goal for 12 weeks. And when you write your goals down, people with written goals have like 9x of earnings with people without written goals, according to one study. So I think it's really important that you guys are writing down your goals and thinking about them. The overarching point of the 12-week year is that annual goals are great. But what we see is that when we have annual goals, it's January, we're all excited. Like y'all know me, I've been super excited that it's January, and you get excited and then you go into your pit because you've gotten busy and things, and you realize you haven't really happened, and you're like, oh, I'm nowhere on any of my goals. I'm not any closer, like in the middle of the year. And then you get to the end of the year and you're like, okay, well, I'm at least going to get this done. And you do a big push and you get something done, right? So the goal of the 12-week year is to compress that amount of time and not be focusing on all of our goals at once. So this slide kind of shows we have all these different goals that we may be focusing on: business activities, health and wellness goals, business process goals, relationship goals, marketing goals, education goals. Like we may have all of these. If we're trying to focus on all of these at once, that's really hard. So we're going to pick 1 or 2 and focus on them for a short amount of time. And that this is a program that you can always use, right? Like we do it once a year because it's a lot of work. We could do it again if a group of us decide we have so much fun and it's so successful and we want to do another one. But Jim Miller, who I talk about all the time, he's the lead broker at Jameson Sotheby's International Realty. He's an awesome productivity coach. I highly recommend his Monday morning pep talks. They're everywhere you can listen to any type of podcast, but they're just really great for real estate agents. But he does the 12-week year 4 times a year, which is how it's designed. We're not doing that, but he does it, every year. And he has laid out 3-year goals for himself, and he's a machine. He's awesome. He's major goals. But for us, let's just do it once and see how it works. And then we can see how we can incorporate it, in our lives going forward. So any questions so far?
What is this podcast?
It's his podcast. It's called Ask Jim Miller. And he's basically a productivity and sales coach he coaches, I think, Sotheby's agents from all over, but
I know him. Yeah. He's great.
You know him. He's a great guy. The pep talks are awesome. If you guys don't listen, they're usually less than 20 minutes and just good motivators on a Monday morning for sure. So we're taking the 12-week year process and turning it into our guaranteed goals challenge. For those of you that want to join, you do not have to if you're here for CE and just to learn about this. Awesome. If you want to join us, that's great too. I'll take a list. If you already know you're in and you haven't emailed me, put it into the chat so that I can make sure you get all the emails, because I promise you next week I'll stop bugging you about the guaranteed goals challenge if you're not coming. But I've sent a couple emails about it this week just to get people aware. So any other questions? Bess? No? Oh, she's in. That was what the hand was for. Awesome. I love it. Okay. So I love this quote: for every minute spent organizing, an hour is earned, which I think is so true. And that's really what that's not really what this is about. That's part of what this is about, right? Just being organized and intentional with what we want to accomplish. So here's the basic details of the program. We're going to define a specific goal. And if you want to do more than one goal, that's fine. I don't think you should do more than 3. And if you're going to do 3, one of them needs to be teeny tiny, right? one of the reasons we'll talk about later that people fail at their goals is that they're overwhelming or they're too big. And so it's only 12 weeks. That's not a lot of time. So pick 1 or 2, maybe 3 that feel accomplishable, and let's do it. Maybe it feels a little bit uncomfortable and like it's a little bit big, but that's okay. Maybe you just pick one big one, and that's totally fine too. There's no judgment in this space ever. So the only people that are judging us is ourselves. So we define our specific goal, and then we're going to assess how it can be achieved and brainstorm a list of tactics to execute. So that's why those of you guys are here that are going to do this have a little bit of a head start, because you can start thinking about your goal and just start brainstorming like the tactics that it would take to get there. And we're going to talk about this again on Wednesday, is picking our goal. And the first week will be all about laying out tactics. But you guys can start now, right? I'm still chewing on like, what's the right goal for me. Last year, my 2 goals were moving my garden boxes from my one house to my other house so that I could have a summer garden, and also like teaching myself how to use Microsoft To Do, which sounded like so overwhelming. And I had been literally putting it off for all of the previous year. And then it turned out to be really easy and like a game changer. So I actually think that was a good lesson, that these things that feel overwhelming to us may not actually turn out to be that hard. So you might be pleasantly surprised. Okay, so then once we have assessed how the goal can be achieved and what our tactics might be, we're going to kind of try to lay out the tactics over the course of the next 12 weeks, which is January 18th through April 5th. And they may shift and move a little bit, and sometimes you're not going to get them done, so they move to the next week, but it helps us to just kind of have a general plan. And then the next step is blocking out your time to complete your tactics every week, which is why I just spent a little bit of time talking about blocking out time, because I think that's the hardest piece, is finding the time to do this. At least maybe that's the hardest piece for me. Some people may find like the hardest piece is like figuring out how does this goal turn into steps, right? And that's the beauty of doing this as a group, is that we can talk it out as a group, and you can also always call me and we can like hash it out for you too. I think the more people you talk about it with and the longer you think about it, you'll probably get more ideas and better ideas, and really be able to have like a full list of tactics to get you there, regardless of whatever your goal is. Everyone will have different ideas. Okay, so then once we have our plan, we block out our time, or we know we're going to block out our time. Obviously, every week is different. Then once a week we get together to just be accountable. Y'all know from hanging out with me that people that write down their goals, tell a friend, and then check in weekly with someone are most likely to succeed in their goal. So the weekly accountability is really, really key. If we just did this now and I said, come back in April and let's talk about it, we would be way less successful. It's the weekly checking in that's keeping us to task, right? Nobody wants to show up on Wednesday afternoon and not have done their stuff. Not that anyone's going to judge you, but it just feels good to like have made some progress and be able to report on it. So that's pretty much it. Does anyone have questions?
So you're going to do it Wednesday. Are you going to do Zoom live, and what time of day?
Yeah, so we're going to do Wednesdays at 1:30, and that's the tentative plan right now. We're going to do it on the out of the 4th floor training conference room, not the training room, the 4th floor conference room at Turtle Creek has the ability to do a Zoom like this, but also have people in the room, and we don't lose any quality of sound. So we're going to do it that way. It's kind of a hybrid, but for most people it's Zoom, right? And for those of you that can make it to Turtle Creek, awesome. I'm going to see how many of us there are. Like this may change a little bit depending on how many people sign up. And, if we had like 30 people in Fort Worth, we could probably do one over there too. So it's just that's the plan right now, is block out Wednesdays at 1:30. And it's not a like hour-long meeting. We all get in, we check in, we'll probably start with a bunch of people, and then the numbers, like we lose people along the way. But last year we retained probably, I don't know, like maybe 50 to 70% of people actually completed it. And we had like a really good group, and we all felt really excited about what we had achieved. So does that answer your question, Tessa?
Yeah, I think that option of Zoom at 1:30 allows people, like if you're coming out of something, you can get in your car and jump in.
Totally. And it's a very casual meeting like that, where we're just kind of sharing. So the Zoom is for sure going to happen, but I know sometimes people like to like get together for the energy too. So my feelings will be hurt if I'm sitting in that room by myself, but if I have people with me, great. And I know it may change week to week too. So that was a good question. Any other questions? Nope. Okay, cool. All right, so what does the weekly routine look like? We score, so basically once we get into it, we've defined our goals, we've laid out our tactics, and every week we are going to sit down by ourselves and score our week, right? And be like, okay, last week I had 5 tactics. I did 3 of them. So I did 60%, which is fine. And then we're going to, in that same time, say, okay, coming up for this week, since I didn't get those other 2 done, these move over. And then I have these other tactics that I had already laid out. And like, when am I going to have time to do these tactics? So you look at your calendar and you say, okay, I don't have anything Thursday morning. I'm going to block out that time so that I can work on these tactics on Thursday morning, so that next week when it's time to report, I got them done, right? So we score our week, and we plan our week in one little planning session with ourselves. And then we execute our tactics, and then we show up to the meeting, to the weekly meeting basically, and report. Those are probably out of order because realistically, I always ended up scoring my week and planning the next week right before I went into that meeting, because I was able to kind of assess what I got done right before the meeting and then go forward. So I'll reorder those. That's not like super helpful. But when we do get together in the group, we basically share our score. And if you read the 12-week year, they're like, if you're getting 85% of your tactics done, like on a weekly basis, like you're doing awesome. And if you get 0 one week because something happened, like, guess what? That's life. You just move on, like not a big deal, right? No one's judging you. You just have to reshuffle and plow through them for the next week. So you share your score, you talk about your successes, you talked about maybe what could have worked. We kind of go forward that way. So any questions about that? Okay, so here's an example. I thought it would help to just look at some examples. And this is an example of like a worksheet, and I can give you guys these forms on Wednesday, or you can kind of do it your own way. But this was an example of some goals. I was like, someone said, okay, I have two goals. I want to lose 10 pounds, and I want a better listing process with new collateral for the spring market. It's like, great. Okay, so what does that look like? Like realistically, if I want to lose 10 pounds, like what do I have to do? And these are my tactics. And this is like when each of them is due, right? Like every week I want to exercise 4 times a week. 3 times a week, I want to like not eat whatever. Like this is what this looks like. So that's kind of my tactics and plan for that one. Say my one of my goals was improving my listing, right? So okay, so then I broke it out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I need to educate myself about what's out there. So I'm going to attend this class or watch this recording. And then I'm going to figure out like, what are my current processes? What do I want to improve? Then I'm going to meet with Sherry or Catherine to figure out how they can help me. Then I'm going to order it. Then I'm going to, it's just all the different steps that would help me with my new listing process. So that's basically what it looks like. We're going to talk again more clearly, like going through it, but that's just one example. So any questions? And this part can be hard, guys. Like I said, the hardest part is actually finding time to do that. That's probably like phase 2, the hardest part. Phase 1, the hardest part is like choosing your goal and breaking it down and outlining it. But that's the work. That's that indirectly productive time that will like help you get there, that you have to like get off the hamster wheel of like doing deals and doing business and like focus on this to help you be better. So any questions? Okay, so to talk through like, how did I get to that worksheet before, right? Like these are questions we can ask ourselves. So we take our clearly defined goals. So what we can do here is I can take one of my goals and you guys can brainstorm it with me, or does anyone want to share a goal that we can like workshop and talk through? Do your homework for you?
I'll give
So
one.
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So I feel like, the biggest thing is I say every year I want to do my database cleanup, and I have it on my phone. I don't use WeChat to go into that like I should, but I think it's just sitting down and doing it. It's such a tedious act, and it's something that I really want to be accountable for, getting my database to where I break it down to like the top 25 who really give me the referrals. doing the business plan with you year after year, Zareen. I mean, over 50% of my business comes from my network people that I see and I talk to, past clients, etc. But then it's not growing past that. So I feel like I've got to get that number. So the top 25 are the ones who have been consistent with me. And then I want to grow it to another 25 that I'm getting to know deeper, and then maybe some wish list. So, I mean, it's just getting that database into a system to where I'm not calling the same people over and over again, but I'm breaking it out a little bit differently.
Okay, I love this. This is a good one. Because it's one that will help all of us, right? Like I have a database cleanup on my like perpetual list of goals that I'm going to ignore also. So this is a really good one for us all to talk through. So what I heard you say is that one, like it's in your phone and you want to get into ReChat. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I use my phone because what I can do and what I feel like Robbie said years ago, and it's something I'm really thinking about, is when I'm driving, I can call Siri and say, Siri, call, John Doe. And then I just do that. So when I'm on the road, I'm just making conversations. And what I realized this week doing that is, especially with Ford, it's amazing what you learn from people. Like, I mean, from either they're having a surgery or their daughter's in rush, or, and then it gives you a reason to like touch back again in 2 weeks, because then it shows sincerity. Like, okay, so then when I pull over, I write down the dates of the surgery, or when the daughter's going to get rushed, or the husband's looking for a job. And I think it's more purposeful than just like, what I'm really also doing is financially just looking at how much money I spent on luncheons and how unproductive they were. And then it just caused other things. It was a huge time waster sometimes because they last a couple hours. They ended up not being productive and good conversations, but more just, I don't know, petty stuff maybe.
Yeah.
That's a bad word, but or I felt like the expense of it all. So now what I'm finding is, switch it over. So, for example, I would always go out on Friday nights, and this is even with the agent friends that I hang out with. I've turned it into like, no, let's just play games at the house. And then that way you're really not being interrupted by a server. You're not over, spending, and you're actually one-on-one in the game sometimes, So I think it's just changing up my routine a little bit to be FaceTime, but not doing it the way I've done it in the past. So it allows me to have some other goals, like reduce my budgeting,
Yeah.
my expenses, get more FaceTime, and then reach out to my database and try to find a way where each individual person is so different. My clients are so different ages, different stages, that I'm trying to find different things where I can bring them into a group and hit a bigger number without costing a ton of money.
So how do you track that? How do you track when someone mentions like, oh, she's going to go through rush, or, oh,
Yeah, I put it down in my calendar right away. So
Okay.
I will say, like, for example, this girl, I actually called her because her husband was getting a job, and I just said, hey, how'd it go? And she said, well, we're still waiting, but I have all these other things on my plate. So she just kind of shared other things. So then I said, okay, on the knee surgery, well, when are you having that? And she said, Thursday. I said, when would be the best time to contact you? Because you're going to feel overwhelmed. Is it before you have the surgery? After you have the surgery? What form would you like for me to message you? Like, do you want me to text you? Do you want me to swing by? Do you want me to call? And I was really deliberate on what would work best for her to not overwhelm her, but just show that I was there for her. And she said, will you text me the day before to see if I feel like I'm going to need meals, where my husband is, if he's going to be traveling. And then that way I wrote it down. I just said, okay, great. Text her in the morning and say, look, we talked about it. I'm available. Do you need a meal?
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, that's helpful. So you're trying to figure out how to like take your database that just kind of lives in your phone in your head and put it into something with a little bit more structure. So you're just not like, who should I think of right now, and trying to like force it yourself.
Yeah, I think it's like, it's that inner self. Like, how many times do you think about somebody and you're like, why does their name keep popping up in my head? And it may even be like an SIR relationship. It could be a kid I went to high school with. It could be, somebody in my family. It doesn't have to be necessarily in the network. But what I find is, and this is something you always say, Zareen, business begets business, right? So as I start to do these other things, the synergy brings different options for me. So for example, my sister's in Sarasota right now on vacation. And as I'm doing this and I'm kind of connecting with my SR friends, are you going to G&E, blah, blah, blah. Then my sister says, hey, I got this crazy idea. I kind of want to look in Siesta Keys. And then it allowed me to go reach out to different agents in different markets. And then it took me into finding a whole new person because the ones that are there aren't in town. And then I made a whole new friend yesterday. And it was literally, and this is another aha moment to share with you guys. I've never done a video outside of my team. And, I know Briggs has really been talking about it. So when I went online to kind of see who was in Siesta Keys specific, this woman had the same background. She was a seamstress. And so sewing's a thing in our family. And it's just like this huge art and craft. So of course I was like, send it to my sister. I'm like, well, if nothing else, we connect with her on the entrepreneurial sewing side. And then it just became a discussion that woman and I made, whether or not she was going to be the right fit or not. So again, I think it just leads to other snowball things. That's a long-winded answer to like how things work.
No, that's good. So I hear you saying two different things. Is that one, you're kind of shifting your like approach, not a huge shift, but a slight shift, right? Into like more intentional communications versus just networking for the sake of networking.
Right.
So that's one, but then
I'm not doing checklist kind of mentality. That just becomes redundant, boring, and you won't stick with it.
Right. And then the other one was like the more formal, like, what does it look like to you? Like you say, you have this challenge with your database. Like, what does it look like for that challenge to be completed? Like at the end of the Guaranteed Goals Challenge, if you're like, oh, everything's in a spreadsheet or everything's in ReChat and it's tagged, or what would success look like to you for this goal?
Well, I'm using the 4-quarter breakout books and the Ninja planning. So it helps me with that. So I just write down, and what I feel like for me, I'm a visual, I'm a paper girl. There's no computer. So you and I are so polar opposite.
Yeah.
But what I like is when I look down at the end of the week and I see all these notes that I made, who I called, who I talked to, it gave me more of a sense of direction. So for example, on the financial side of things and networking lunches, who really would value my time with a network lunch is a business person who can't go out and just socialize. They're going to keep it to the hour and they're going to be seeing me more as a business person. So that's who gets my good luncheon at Albernays. That's who gets one a month, maybe 2 a month. But it's deliberate. It's not just winging it. It's not like saying, hey, let's get together and go eat,
Okay, I heard you say database and immediately was like, oh, she needs a spreadsheet and it needs to be in ReChat and all these things. And when you said database.
You're cutting out.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So what you meant was just being more intentional with the way that you network.
Yeah. And then cleaning out my database. Like I go through the A's, like if I'm sitting somewhere waiting at Carol Clinic for my son's appointment, I just start cleaning it out. Like, no, they've moved. No, they have a child that's now in real estate. I mean, whatever it is. Serene, I'm so sorry, but I have to take this.
No, it's okay. It's
Okay.
good because this one's like a sticky one, but it's good. Go take it. So I think it sounds like what she's talking about is that she wants to have a cleaner database, but she also wants to be more intentional about the way that she's working with them. So what she needs to do is define what that looks like and then back into the steps. And it sounds like she has a lot of the steps, but like the goal isn't clearly defined yet. So I can keep talking to her about this like offline. I don't want to get too far deep into it with her, which is totally fine. But basically, we're going to take our goal and then brainstorm tactics that will help us get there, right? So like what every day and week would help me get there, right? Is there anything that I need to have in place, right? Like last year, for example, when my goal was tasks, I was to learn Microsoft Tasks. Like I knew it was there and I knew it connected to Microsoft and I'm a Microsoft Power user, but I didn't even know like what it looked like. And it just felt like really big and scary. And then when I actually got into it, I realized it wasn't even called Microsoft Tasks anymore. It was called Microsoft To Do. So the first week it was literally like, watch 3 videos about Microsoft Tasks. And then I Googled it. The first step was like, that's not even a thing. It's Microsoft To Do. So I was like, okay, watch 3 videos about Microsoft To Do. And then it was like, remove it from my phone. So you have to start thinking about like, do I know enough about this? Like, what are the things I have in place? Is there something I need to extend? Like, understand better, you know, and you have to ask yourself all of these questions about it. So, Kimmy, did you want to share yours? If it's something that you think we could kind of chew on a little bit? I can't see.
Yeah, mine is super broad, so maybe I'm not doing it correctly after Tessa's really good example, but mine was just, I want to get one new listing from my neighborhood that I just moved into probably like 9 months ago. So I know, or I think one of my tactics is going to be starting to farm my neighborhood. And I took Catherine's Remind class to get like the high sell score and like all those cool data points to narrow it down. But I'm not sure other tactics that I could put into place to
So
achieve.
farm means like a postcard campaign.
Yeah, postcard, I was thinking.
So like once a month.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay, so that's a great tactic, is like send out, 3 postcards over the course of this time period. And we can, you guys can all like you can all share it out, but, and other ideas, like, I mean, you could host a neighborhood event, you could do a pop by and, it's something that introducing yourself. Is there like, you can research whether your community has like like an event that you can sponsor, like just kind of read all about the neighborhood. You can decide if you need to have like a neighborhood newsletter, or if that already exists, can you advertise in it? Like things like that, right? And you guys probably have better ideas than me. So you've done this. So does anyone have more ideas that Kimmy could do? No, you do.
Something that I'm sampling. I haven't actually gone through it yet, but I'm in the motions of putting in place. The neighborhood I live in has different sections, different names, like Bridlewood, Saddle Ridge, stuff like that, but it's all part of the same community. And at the moment I'm building intramural kind of competition between the areas of the neighborhood. And April, we're gonna put on I'm putting on a cornhole tournament. May, I'm putting on a kickball tournament, because I ran a poll for the community of what people would be interested in doing, and kind of taking it as a, build awareness of and build relationships in there without it being real estate focused, because I think that can be more kind of white noise with how much is out there. So I've kind of developed that. I've got a Facebook group going, and just trying to connect people through hobbies.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's great. Actually, you guys have this is a goal that you both kind of similarly have, so you should definitely talk, but that's a good idea. For sure, like host an event, plan something, join the local Facebook group.
It might be a good idea. I'll keep you guys posted.
Keep us posted, especially Kimmy. Does anyone else have ideas for her? Like, this is what you have to do, is kind of just brainstorm, right? And make sure your tactics are specific, right? Like me for saying, learn how to use too general. It's like, watch 3 videos about how to do it, read 3 articles. And I mean, that's really what like pointed me in the right direction. This is the example of like, these are the questions generically laid out. And then this is kind of how it related to the tactics that I ended up brainstorming, right? It was like, first I needed to learn about it, understand it, read articles. Then I needed to download any relevant apps that would help me use tasks. It actually is To Do and not Tasks. So I had to download the To Do app, which is awesome. And I still use it today like a psychopath. Move my I kept a list in my phone before. So now I had to, one of my tactics was moving it. Once I learned it and had downloaded it and was comfortable, I had to move everything out of my little comfortable iPhone note into To Do. And, it's just steps, and it worked out really, really well. So, this was this was what it looked like, right? And ultimately you can see after the first like 6 weeks, the goal was accomplished and I just had to work in to do and not in my iPhone note anymore. So what felt like big and huge and scary to me was like changing the way I kept track of my to-do list, which is like a huge thing for me, was like not that hard. And I just had to switch over and do it, which hopefully some of you guys will find too. I'm not saying like all of our goals are going to turn out to be like surprisingly easy, but you might find one that has felt overwhelming that was not, because that was my experience last year. Did anyone that do this last year have any, oh, this was another one. This is just another good example for you. Like, this is a dumb one, but I said, I had garden boxes that we built during COVID at our old house that we are knocked down in our building. And I wanted to move them to the house we're living in now. We bought a little house that we'll rent when we move out. And I was like, I want to move my veggie garden over so that I can have a garden this summer. Because the first summer we lived there, I didn't move it and it made me sad. So these were not huge steps, but I just had to lay out, this is how I'm going to get those boxes moved over to here and planted. And I need Matt's help. And that's how I did it. And we made it happen and I had a good garden. So that's a silly one, but it got done. And this was kind of originally what my tactics looked like. And they didn't all get done in this time frame, but I obviously had extra time to get them done and it happened. So any questions there? Kimmy, do you feel like you have like more steps now? Does anyone have other ideas for her?
I feel like you rattled off a lot of good ones, Zareen, and I really liked the community events. We've got like a little tennis court and pickleball court, which I don't know how to play either, but I could at least get something going for the people that do in the community. So I thought those were some really good ideas.
Awesome. And now you guys can see like, okay, I have my goal, I have some tactics, and just start like chewing on other ones. And then when we're meeting and talking about them, other people will have more ideas for you too. So once again, the weekly routine. Does anyone have another goal they want to talk about? That workshop, we have like a little bit of time. So one of my goals, you guys can help me then. I'm going to make you do my homework if no one has one. So speak up now. No? So, okay, so one of my goals, so here's the thing, this goal that I'm going to talk about and also Kimmy's goal, they're a little bit tricky because at the end of the day, like we can't force someone to list a property with us, right? I mean, the garden boxes were all on me, right? Switching to do was all on me. Like when you have a goal that relates to like getting 2 listings or, you know, one of my goals for this year is to refer a real estate transaction 6 times, right? I mean, some of them, like I have a referral outgoing in Mexico right now. So that's not to a Briggs Freeman agent, but that's a referral. I want to do at least 6 referrals this year. There's just no reason that I'm not leaning into our Briggs Freeman marketing that's like so beautiful and easy to use and like marketing to my sphere and just tripping over deals. Cause I know people ask me about real estate and I'm not like massaging that enough to turn it into like referrals for me and business for you guys. So that's one of my goals this year is to refer 6 real estate transactions. Hopefully all to you guys. Obviously one of them is going to like a Briggs Freeman, a Sotheby's agent, not in Briggs Freeman because she's in Mexico, but generate some more business around here with my sphere. So I don't know if you guys have ideas for me on what I should be doing. I'm not going to be able, obviously that's 6 goals in a year. So quarter wise, maybe it's just generate 2 referrals. That seems lofty and it's totally out of my control. But even if I do the work and they don't happen in this 12-week period, I know I'm planting the seeds and it will eventually happen. So I won't be like disappointed. But I know I need to start doing more like Briggs Freeman social media, taking advantage of that stuff that's like pre-packaged and sending out the media, the campaigns. Does anyone have other ideas for me?
This is JB. I do. Sorry, I've got the crud, so I'm not looking good.
Aw, I'm sorry.
I know, I'm barely alive. I haven't done this, but I've been thinking about doing it because I did 5 referrals this year.
Uh-huh.
There are so many agents that are willing to share their like vacation properties and just getting people excited about going to Hawaii or going to Florida or going to Colorado or going to Montana, going to Puerto Rico, and just kind of sharing little things like if you're considering, you know what I mean? And you kind of send people want to look at vacation spots.
Right.
And so you're sharing a newsletter that you've created. These agents are happy to share their listings. And that's on several of the Facebook groups that I'm in with Sotheby's.
Awesome. Awesome. That's a good idea. It's funny. I posted, I've been mindful of this goal. And so the other day I was in the Fort Worth huddle, the Sotheby's concierge auction guy was there, and I realized I hadn't been following them on Instagram. So I posted that Marfa one that they're about to auction. And like the most interesting people responded to that story that I posted. And it was like a post that took zero thought in like 4 seconds. And I did it while I was sitting in the meeting, but just things like that to like make my sphere more aware that like, hey, I work for a really awesome real estate company. That will hopefully lead to like people reaching out to me and then me being able to convert it into deals. But that's a great point. Okay. So like share like vacation properties. Any other ideas? This ultimately will benefit you guys, right? Because I won't do the deal, I'll refer them. I'm just chewing on like what can I make part of my like regular routine to like drum up business more. I need to fix my speech when people ask me about houses, because I'm like, oh, I don't list and sell anymore. And that's like the wrong thing to say, right? Because I don't list and sell anymore, but I know like the best people in the business that do. So that's one of my things, is like fix my elevator speech about like what I do and how I can help people. That's on my list. Anyone else? Okay, I'm not going to make you guys brainstorm for me anymore unless anyone has a great idea. But
Jareen, perhaps
yeah.
what you do is you have access to leverage to their benefit, and an ecosphere that not only has 400 local rock stars, but actually enwraps or circulates the entire world. Where do their dreams take them for their next house? You've got connections.
Yeah, I just need to be more like intentional about putting that out there. I'm pretty private on social media, but I need to like not be, because this is a good company and I will help people if I connect people more. So that's a good one. Okay.
And they're actually, I will agree with you 100%. It reminds me of a mentor that has told me since the beginning of my career to not be a secret agent.
Yes. Yep. That's what I am right now. So,
and I tend to be the same way, kind of private on my, excuse me, I tend to be kind of private on social media as far as real estate, not to be, because I'm always afraid of being like braggadocious. I don't want to be yet another agent that says, I sold. I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
But then yesterday, just to encourage you, I actually got gently, lovingly shamed by a client that, of course, most of my clients become dear friends, because she actually said, so Bess, I was messing around on social media. Do you have an Instagram account?
Do you? Yes. I know you do, because I see you there.
Yes, it's in very small little mouse voice. Yes, it's Bess Dixon Home. She's like, oh, I'll have to look you up. Why have I never seen you? I'm on there all the time. I was like, oh my gosh, I love you. Thank you for piling on the 2023 action shame.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Message from the
Anyway,
universe
so-
that I need to focus on that. Yeah.
This, it's easy to do
Right.
from ReachOut.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's real easy to do from ReachOut. In fact, you could do 2 for 1, because it could go to Instagram and Facebook at the same time.
Yeah. That's how
Very
I feel
nice.
like it's so easy to execute with the way our marketing department does it. Like there's no reason to not take advantage of those campaigns. There's no reason not to. I just need to do it. So thank you guys. Okay. So reasons people fail at their goals. Notice I did not say why we fail at our goals, because we're not going to, but reasons people fail at their goals is that the goal is too vague, or it feels impossible to reach. So we quit, which means it's too big, right? We need to bring it down and like make it consumable, right? Or we only think about really long-term goals, which is like, oh, I want to retire in Colorado. Like that's an awesome long-term goal, but let's like shorten that. So we figure out like, what does that need to look like now? Right. We've stated our goals in the negative, like stop doing this. Like that's just the wrong mindset to think of, right? We keep them in our head, right? Like we know we have to write our goals down. Like I literally did this with my family the other day because it's just important and that's how we're going to get there. They can't just be in our head. So we're not in an environment that's supportive of our goals. That's an important one. So that's why we're here together, is that, at minimum, like your Briggs Freeman family is going to be supportive of you and help you, right? So we're here. We get discouraged, so we quit, right? Like, I mean, there's going to be times when there's like a week or two in a row, maybe, that we didn't do our tactics. Hopefully not, but that might be, but we can't like quit. We just have to like reshuffle and keep going. We only focus on the results and not the process. Like that's really, really easy to do. And with goals like my goal and Kimmy's goal, we can't focus on the results because those results are out of our control. Like we know all the right knobs to push and levers to turn. Is that the right word? Knobs to turn and levers to push, whatever. To like hopefully make those things happen. But at the end of the day, like someone else has to make the decision to refer something to us or to list with us. So we can't just focus on the results. We have to understand that like the process is the important part, right? It feels like too much work, which is just a fact. We just have to decide we want to do the work, right? That's a bottom line. We don't celebrate our wins enough. That's a big one. That's another beauty of the like 12-week program, is that like we're not in 12 weeks, which is not that long of a time. Like we should be celebrating, and we will celebrate. So that's the beauty, is that you work for 12 weeks, celebrate, and then you get started on your next 12 weeks. And we have no accountability, which is not going to happen to us. So that's why this is reasons that other people fail at their goals, but not us. So that's all I have. It's 10:57. Does anyone have questions? I would love feedback.